Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning. Thank you for joining this morning and welcome to our new first webinar for the 2026 year. Hope everyone has had a good rest over the holidays and we are all refreshed back to work. So now I will just request everyone just to we're going to go through expectations and what are your expectations for this year? What is it that you're looking for to, what are you looking to hear, to learn? What is it that you would like to see happen this year? Thank you.
Good morning. It's Sylvia again from East London for Victory House. As NGOs, since we struggle so much with funding, I think if we can be supported because we want to help the for example, at my organization, we don't have money for a lot of things. We wanted to accommodate, our house is accommodating more than 10 women, but most of the time we can't take more than that because we can't even take that number with their children because of funding constraints. So we're praying as NPOs because we are doing a good job. We want to do this, but we can't do it without finances. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Funding, it is a problem in most provinces. We are having problem with funding. Most shelters are facing funding problems, and some are at the verge where they are going to close and something like that. So we do need help in terms of funding. Like most of the provinces do need help, like shelters need help in terms of funding. Sometimes even the funding that is available, it's not even enough to meet the needs of our survivors, of our clients. So funding is one of the biggest problems at the moment in shelters. Anybody else? Thank you.
Sorry, can I just um, in there for a moment, right? So I'm just wondering also in terms of, it's almost 2 years now that we've been conducting monthly webinars. And I'm just interested to know also in terms of topic suggestions around, going forward, and also in particular for the rest of the year. Would be nice to hear from some of you what you think should be included in our webinars. So, you're more than welcome to share it or you can put it on the chat. Is there anyone else want to share an expectation?
Okay, anybody else who would like to say something or share their expectations?
Monica's hand is up.
Morning, colleagues. I don't know if
Monica,
okay, ma'am.
you can unmute yourself. Thank you. And we noted about the echo. Thank you.
Okay. No, I was about to mention the echo thing. Yenzeni mina nje la? Hello.
Monica, I see Fadia has put in something in the chat around opening to hear and strengthen knowledge on the DV safety plan. Thank you for that, Fadia.
Morning, everybody. It's Monica. My expectation for me with regards to the safety plan.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to carry on. Okay, let me see. I think my volume is down. Okay, it looks like we're going to carry on. You can still put your expectations in the chat. Yes, we can read it from there. Thank you so much. So today in our first webinar for the year, we're going to be looking at the DV plan, safety and security for women who are victims of gender-based violence. So Ms. Anissa is our speaker for today, and she is going to be presenting on the DV plan today. Okay, just a quick one, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to read Ms. Anissa's bio. So, Ms. Anissa Musa is a qualified and registered social worker with a Bachelor of Arts in Social Science degree from the University of South Africa, which she graduated in 2002. Her work experiences over the last 25 years has been focused on the therapeutic family preservations, intervention, including work with children, couples therapy and mediation, therapeutic group work, and community development. She is a trained facilitator who is passionate about the empowerment and development of clients, as well as those working the human science space in her capacity as a supervisor and a manager. Anissa joined the National Shelter Movement of South Africa in April of 2024 as the national coordinator and is committed to continuing making valuable contributions to the service of humanity. Thank you so much, Ms. Anissa. Please, you can take over.
Thank you so much, Lungi, for that. Yeah, so today is a first for me to present the webinar. I usually moderate. So today we're going to try a little bit something a little bit different. Welcome formally from my side, everybody. I will be sharing my presentation with you in a few moments. I also think that we all know, and all of us, or most of us, are working in the space of gender-based violence. We know it's a harsh reality. We see it every day. We often do lots of awareness drives, campaigns, sharing information. But today I'm going to share what most of us know as a DV, or domestic violence safety plan. It's a little bit more than just sharing information about domestic violence. I'm hoping that you're going to find it useful. It's something that we tried to work on last year. We have it in a pamphlet form, and I thought for webinar purposes, even for people in communities, it might be something useful to have on hand, right? So I'm going to share my screen and take you through it. Please indicate to me if everybody can see my screen in a couple of seconds. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Anissa.
Slideshow. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take you through it. It's a relatively simple presentation. Sorry, just bear with me. I'm trying to do the slideshow so that I can scroll. Okay, there we are. Okay. So, your safety guidelines for domestic violence and femicides. The prevalence of violence against women and children in South Africa is amongst the highest in the world, right? If you feel that your physical, mental, and emotional well-being is threatened or violated, um, you know, this safety plan will provide a few guidelines, a few suggestions for developing a personalized and practical safety plan. So these are just guidelines, and obviously, every survivor, based on their context, will adjust it and adapt it suitably or appropriately, right? And that's meant for staying safe while enduring an abusive relationship. So it's at different points, and or when planning to leave, or even after leaving. While every situation is unique, these tips are meant to help you think of actions that work for your own situation, right? Okay, so if someone is living in an abusive relationship, right? So that's before they actually leave. And these are things to consider: to identify safe areas in the house where there are no weapons and there are ways to escape if arguments occur. And this is important, just now, and then you'll see later on in the year, we've scheduled or confirmed dates for webinars and workshops with Gun Free South Africa. And obviously, we know that weapons come in different shapes and forms, not just firearms, but people use anything in the house that they can find. So, it's some home spaces are not always safe, but find those spaces where you feel relatively safe, especially when you can feel the tension build up, or you can almost sense that there's going to be some kind of a confrontation. Then keep weapons like firearms and knives locked up away as inaccessible as possible. This is not always 100% possible, but to try and minimize accessibility to sharp and dangerous items in your home that can be used as a weapon. Don't run to where the children are, as your partner may want to hurt them as well. So I know that, and also bearing in mind, the reality is that when someone is being abused or violated, and we know that and for a lot of the social workers, we know that when someone experiences trauma, their thinking processes, or rather their emotions take over their thinking process. And sometimes you don't always, in hindsight, or before you think, okay, fine, I'll do this or I'll do that. But when it actually happens, you are so scared that sometimes you run in a direction, and without thinking, children do get exposed. They sometimes do get hurt. They are sometimes themselves victims as well. Then practice with your children how to get out safely, and that safety is important. So again, this is a nice point to bear in mind, is that a safety plan should not just be about you or the survivor in that case, if it's beneficiaries that we're referring to, but also there should be inclusion of children. So you'll see that the safety plan would include the safety of children, to the extent where the survivor is conscious of how their actions is going to affect their children. Then also teach them that violence is never right, that neither you or they are at fault. This is also an important message that you need to share with your children and teach them to prevent ongoing violence perpetuation. And also, it feeds into the kind of messages that we expose them to going forward about relationships and about their own self-worth and their own safety. Then always try to back the car in the driveway and keep it fueled, right? So we know why. That makes for easy escape. So remember also, and I think the message here is that when you're in an abusive relationship, you have to consider your exit when you are threatened. Then leave the driver's door unlocked and the others locked for a quick escape. And assess your options by periodically calling a domestic violence helpline. So you'll see, and when I share my camera, our banner is behind me with our 24-hour shelter helpline. The number is also at the bottom of the screen. It is a toll-free number. So for your reference, I will also share other numbers with you later in the presentation. And remember that we usually share our presentations with people who've attended. So that should be helpful, and you'll have it on hand. Then, legally speaking, now I've brought this in because when you're in an abusive relationship, we forget about all these things, right? So one thing to remember is that research to try and research laws and available resources during the crisis, or I should say, when you're in an abusive relationship, but before the crisis actually happens, know what your options are, know what your rights are, know what the policies are, know what resources are available to you, how accessible they are to you. So educate yourself, right? Then you have photographs of important documents, including a protection order on your phone, should you not get hold of the documents before you leave. That's important. So usually, I know in the past also we used to talk of an emergency bag where you have like a runaway bag. So you have a set of clothes and you have your ID documents, your children's school cards, birth certificates, that kind of thing, so that you have everything on you, your car keys, spare keys, whatever it is that you need, phone numbers. I know before we used to say keep emergency numbers on you, but everything's on our phones nowadays. But we'll come to the phone also a little bit later on in the presentation. Then try to keep evidence of physical abuse, like pictures and a record of the abuse, noting dates, events, and threats made. Take screenshots of abusive messages. This will be useful when seeking legal support or protective mechanisms, like when applying for a protection order. Also, if you're going to report the abuse, you've got, like trails to support your reporting, right? Then, so I spoke a little bit about the phone, right? So delete searches and requests for help. Now, if your perpetrator or your abuser has access to your phone, and he looks through your phone or you share a computer at home, delete your internet browsing history. Your websites visited for resources, emails, and or WhatsApps, SMSs sent to friends and family asking for help. If you call for help, dial another number immediately after in case the abuser hits redial. Okay. So you don't want him on your trail, you don't want him also, and also you don't want the abuse to intensify as a result of what he finds on your phone or restricting your mobility even further. So that can be particularly risky. Then send screenshots, messages, of abusive incidents to a trusted friend or family member before deleting them. So this is important then. So we're saying a few things. In the previous slide, we said collect evidence, right? Then we also saying send it first to a trusted friend or family member and then get rid of it. So that's kind of the process that we're looking at, right? And then linked to that friend, we're talking about reaching out. So secure the support of a trusted friend, colleague, family member, or local organization. If they are not comfortable, reach out to others who will be. And then develop a WhatsApp group in case some people are not reachable when you may need support. Give that group a safe name so that it doesn't alert suspicion like church or mosque group or book club. Then signaling for help. So before I continue with the presentation, I'm just going to quickly ask if anybody has any comments so far, so you can engage. I don't want, it's not just a presentation. So you can have discussions around what some of your own experiences are with either clients, or if we do have survivors amongst the participants who wants to share anything. Do these resonate? Do you find it useful or relevant before we continue, or you'd like to make suggestions, or you'd like to ask a question? Please feel free. Is there anyone who would like to? Okay, so does that mean I can continue? Okay, so it's quite clear, I'm hoping. And I'm hoping that you're finding it useful and something that you can share with others as well. Okay, so signaling for help. Create a code word with your trusted person or group to alert them when you need help. So I think the message here is, and you'll see one of the later slides speaks about be prepared. And it's not a nice thing to say because I mean, if you in a relationship, but we know that when it comes to abusive relationships, you constantly on edge, you work walking on eggshells, you're on guard, you don't know what to expect. You're always waiting for a storm. It's either calm before the storm, it's calm after a storm. There's always a storm there, and so you have to plan, be prepared. So these are some of the things that you would consider, like even creating a code word, right? Then develop and discuss a visual signal and plan with your children and neighbors. Again, can you see there's inclusion of your children? I think it's important for members of the household who are also threatened by the abuser that they be included in your plan, be informed. And neighbors to alert them should you be in distress. Signals like switching an outside light on and off several times or tying a piece of material where it is visible from the outside of your house. Red material could signal that you need. So these are just examples. Obviously, you would use what works best for you. Red material could signal that you need your neighbor to contact police. White material could signal that you need them to create a diversion, like ringing your doorbell or calling your cell phone or landline. Okay, so I know I've asked if anyone's got any questions or comments. Please feel free to raise your hand if in between you would like to stop me or repeat something, right? Then planning to leave, right? So this is the next step. So the slides up until now looked at when you're in an abusive relationship, what are some of the safety mechanisms you can put into place? What we're looking at now is when you're planning to leave, and this is at the point where you've decided. But remember also again, even with our experience at the helpline, any one of you working in the shelter space knows that with survivors, it often is a back and forth process. There's many times when they're in an abusive relationship and they've considered leaving, they've planned on leaving, they've even left, and then only to revisit the abusive relationship for whatever reasons. And we know that it's a complex thing. Like I said again, for people working in the field, you know that it is a process for many of them. We sometimes may get a little bit frustrated, but it's their process. So going back to the slide, when we plan to leave, and again, it requires uh, preparation. So acquire job skills and take online courses or training where possible. So again, and that's something that we, again, working in the field, talk about all the time, this women's economic empowerment or empowerment. It's not just about leaving the relationship, it's about what happens after. Whether she goes to shelter is the next stop, whether she goes to family members and support structures. But eventually, we know again that the shelter stay is temporary. Sometimes, even with families, we know that there might be difficulties staying long term with families or support structures. Some survivors are luckier than others. They do have consistent and stable support structures. Not all of them do. And unfortunately, we know that most of them don't have the support structures that go with it. So it's not just about living, but I think it's about thinking ahead about what happens. And again, those of us who are working in the shelter spaces also understand that shelters require exit plans. So, how does that fit into when I make that decision to leave? That's the one thing. But the other thing is also we know that a lot of survivors also leave unexpectedly. They have to flee. And this is why we also started the 24-hour shelter helpline, knowing that it's unpredictable. But then you do get women who are in abusive relationships for like long term. And so leaving is something that they already have given thought to. But what is it that they do to put that into place? Then set some money aside or ask friends or family members to hold money for you pack a bag for yourself and your children. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, include important documents like IDs, passports, children's birth certificates, marriage certificate, protection order, etc., medication, cell phone with adequate data. That's very important. Money, bank cards, change of clothing, toiletries, small toys for your children if you've got, teddy bear for your children, and anything else that is important to you, right? Obviously, it mustn't be very bulky. It's going to be things that you can take easily on your way out. If not possible, shelters are able to provide clothing and toiletries if required. Place this bag in a safe place where you can access it easily, or may want to store these at a trusted friend's or neighbor's family member's house. However, try to avoid the homes of next door neighbors for obvious reasons, right? We don't want accessibility. We don't want perpetrators' accessibility to you, and even mutual friends. So I think you have to be quite strategic about it. It comes with a lot of trust. Include your children in your plan again and prepare them adequately emotionally as well. It's not always easy. We spoke about the trauma that a survivor goes through. She herself may not be in a good space. And then there's children to think about. But try as far as possible to include them, especially if they're old enough and they can understand. There's advantages and disadvantages when it comes to ages of children. Sometimes they're too young and they don't understand. Sometimes they're old enough to understand. So it's always important to consider their emotional well-being and their developmental stage. Remember that their job is to stay safe and not to protect you. And this is an important statement. When we include children in abusive relationships, it's not about seeking their protection. It's about trying to protect them as well. So this for me is extremely important. And including them in your plan is about making sure that you don't leave them behind sometimes for the perpetrator, especially if the perpetrator is abusive towards them as well. Okay, then leaving. When is it safe to leave? Right? This is an important question. Wait until the abuser is asleep or occupied or create any reason for going out. So again, we see the planning element coming into place. Only do this if you know it is safe to do so, right? I know that's not always the case. Again, we're talking about emergencies where, you're running for your life. Under those circumstances, obviously, that won't apply. But if you are planning on leaving, make sure that you've thought about all of these things. Then know in advance where you want to go. And that's another thing, because we also know, again, from our experience with the helpline, right? Homelessness also poses threats to women, right? You don't want to find yourself in the streets because that makes you prey again to sexual assaults, crime, and that's something you don't want. Okay. So when you think about where you're going to go, remember in one of the earlier slides, we did speak about including a trusted friend or family member to make arrangements with them, right? Let them know beforehand if possible. A shelter is another option. Hospital or police station. Police officers can refer you to a shelter too. Contact any of the help numbers for assistance, which I will, like I said, I will share with you a little bit later, and it's on the presentation. If injured, seek medical attention, report what happened, and request that your visit be documented. So it's also part of the evidence, right? And this is another thing in terms of your mobility, depending on how serious the injury is. Then have a contingency plan should the abuser find out about your initial plan, because there's always that possibility, right? Okay, so when we talk about leaving, yes, there is the leaving element, But remember that there's post-leaving. So most in most survivors and even most stakeholders working in the sector knows that it's not always possible that once a survivor leaves, that's the end of it, and there's the happily ever after. We know that healing is a long-term process. We know empowerment is a long-term process. We know that rebuilding your life is a long-term process. But a big chunk of their time also goes around staying safe from the perpetrator. A lot of perpetrators pursue the survivor long after the survivor has left an abusive relationship. So that's something else that we need to consider. So leaving is often dangerous, and you need to create a safety plan to ensure your safe exit from the situation, right? Then while leaving is a positive choice, the transition can be a difficult process, right? Seeking the assistance of the police, women's agencies, 24-hour helplines, the courts and shelters to apply for protection order if you don't have one already. So we know that these processes are not always easy. They're also intensified by the emotional state that the survivor is in, right? We know that also we experience glitches or difficulties when we go to police stations. Survivors' experiences with police are not, many of them are not very positive. There's either re-victimization, or they left stranded, or they stigma. And even with women's agencies, sometimes they help, sometimes they full, sometimes they can help you partially, sometimes they have criteria, sometimes they have rules. Rules are another thing. Living in a shelter is not easy. I know here at the helpline, we sometimes have to prepare survivors. They need to understand it's communal living. There are rules. Their mobility is restricted. Court processes sometimes take long. We have challenges with the justice system. 24-hour helplines are available. Sometimes we can't reach social workers at shelters on time. So those are the day-to-day practical issues around placing women, or even referral pathways, or even the beginning of the healing process, or after leaving an abusive relationship, right? Then be careful to whom you give your new address and phone number to, because you don't want to be accessible. You don't want that information. And that's the reason. And a lot of survivors sometimes have difficulty when they get to shelters and they find that, they can't have their phone on them. Yes, it's a daunting feeling. Our phones, we depend on it. It's our connection to the rest of the world, but it's also a connection to the perpetrator. And that is the very problem. And it doesn't just place the survivor at risk, but also other residents in a shelter, right? Okay, then if you cannot change your child or children's school, and this is another difficulty also, and again, people working in the sector knows the challenges we have, even when placing women with children, it's in the middle of the year, but not just with schooling, but also with placement of the children, depending on their age, depending on the area, depending on the shelter and the resources and all of those, right? So, and then inform them of the situation, and that only you or a person designated by you may collect them from school. So this is referring to the communication that you have with the school about where you're at, right? And so remember that parenting is also a responsibility. I know it's not always easy to think about all of those, what may seem little things, but they are important factors to consider. Then also ensure that your employer is aware of the situation, right? That's another thing, right? If possible, have your call screen, change your stores. So this next point also speaks about your routine. Your daily stops. It's about changing in a way your life. All those familiar things, all those shared things, all the things about you that the perpetrator would know, those need to change. So you can see that leaving an abusive relationship is not just when you step out the door and you say, I'm done. There's a lot of stuff involved. There's a lot of things to consider. Then change the locks at home and further secure your house. Let friends and neighbors know that the abuser no longer lives with you. This is another thing. Okay, because we know that an abuser has ways of reaching you or accessing you if you leave leads or clues, right? And to call the police if they see the abuser near your home or your children. Continue to talk to trusted people about your situation. Again, trusted people, right? We said in one of very earlier slides, we spoke about common friends. So common friends are a little bit risky, but you need to choose your support structures very, very carefully and seek trauma counseling and legal assistance. So again, we talk about comprehensive services, holistic survivor-centered services that would include legal, medical, um, your psychosocial services and support systems, empowerment programs, all of that come into play. Okay, so I did mention a little bit earlier about being prepared and some contact numbers, right? So it is on the slides. I'm not sure if I need to go through each one, but you'll see that we've included the GBV Command Center. Like I said, our helpline number is at the bottom of all the slides. We've got Lifeline, Domestic Violence Helpline. We've got SADC for those of you or those who struggle emotionally, Mosaic for telephonic counseling and referrals for survivors of abuse. We've got a rape crisis, and you'll see they have contact details for people who are not only English speaking. We have the Tears Foundation. We've also included information about our provincial representatives. You can contact them via email if need be. So there's quite a few contact numbers, but these are all very, very important to keep on hand when in an abusive relationship, right? So for the purposes of this presentation, as you can see, it is a simple, but I'm hoping that it's a comprehensive plan. And it's also one that can be adapted. Like I said, depending on, we know that one size doesn't fit all, that it may need, you may need to change it, but these are important things to consider. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments at this point. I'm going to go through the chat. I noticed that there were quite a few. I don't know if it was just introductions. I'm just going to glance through and see if there's any questions or comments in the chat box. Yes, usually the presentation is shared. Like I said, we have printed. So I see Deline has joined us. Deline is one of our provincial reps in Western Cape. And we did share some. So I think when we meet again, maybe if you still need, we can. So these you can hand out when you do community presentations. Because I see most of the the messages on the group are introductions. There are no questions or comments. Sorry? Sylvia. Sorry. I missed that one. Sylvia, is it in the chat box?
Hello.
Should I message? Sylvia? Oh, sorry,
Hello.
I didn't see that. Sylvia, you can unmute and go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. It was really clear and straightforward, especially for our survivors. It's gonna be easy for them as well to just adapt it
Sylvia, you
and
with
use it.
us?
Yes, you can't hear me. Hello.
All right,
I
Sylvia,
can
if you
I can hear
if you
Sylvia.
would like to share or comment, you're more than welcome to. Because we have time still, I thought I would just sorry. Is your volume very down?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. No, I was saying thank you so much for the presentation. It was straightforward and very is especially for our survivors. It's funny because this morning now, while I'm sitting here, I got a message from WhatsApp from one of the schools. The child didn't come to school. Now the social workers are there to go and fetch the mother and the child, and apparently the guy has a gun. So while I'm reading this presentation, I'm also thinking, oh my God, I hope they are going to be safe. So otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anissa, you muted?
Sorry. You know what? We had two devices in the room, and because of the echo, we switched off. So I think that's where a little bit of the sound issues came up, right? But yes, thanks for that, Sylvia. We know that dealing with domestic violence is not as clear cut. You said the presentation was easy to follow. If only, it just went as smoothly as that, but we know that it doesn't always. And again, that is why it's so important that survivors consider all these things because a lot of them don't. And then, when it comes to safety, there's a lot of risk factors. And I think also, when we place survivors, you're describing a situation with the children. There's so many, again, when we place its proximity to the survivor. Sometimes there's mental health issues that we need to consider. Sometimes shelter is far from where the person lives. If the person has children and they go into school and we place them in a shelter far from where they stay, how does uprooting them, is the perpetrator a threat to the children? Do they have family members that live in the area where the children can stay? So, safety plans from shelters and even social workers also need to be comprehensive and include some of these elements. Thank you for sharing, Sylvia. Is there anybody else who would like to share even an experience or ask or anything you'd like?
Camilla has her hand up.
Kamala,
Assalamu alaikum, Anisa.
please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to ask, I know that last year GBV was declared a national disaster. Is there like any improvements or anything that's been implemented into like the system since it is declared a national disaster?
Sorry, is there any systems been implemented for?
Last year, obviously, GBV was declared a national disaster.
Yes.
So, is there anything that is going to happen with the government? Like, is there any resources or any plan or improvement towards like the plan of like helping out with that?
That's the concerns of stakeholders, is how does that translate into action? So I think that's something that, and I think because it came right at the end of the year as a 16 days of activism, towards 16 days of activism, uh, and then we went straight into festive season and everybody came back now. And we know that 16 days is 365 days. So it should translate into something. And we're hoping that it would. I don't know if anybody else has had any updates or information about that.
Okay, thank you. But your presentation is very informative. Really appreciate it.
No, I'm glad that you found it. I must say also that what I would like to do going forward, the whole digital safety is becoming another issue that, in the near future, perhaps doing something like this, particularly focusing on digital safety. That's becoming a big problem.
Anissa, we've got two questions in the chat from Cornelia. How do we help a victim that is already destitute? And do all shelters accept victims without documents? In brackets, ID. And then Kathy has her hand up as well.
Okay, thanks for that, Melanie. Okay, so let's just take that. Yes, we can assist as far as possible. Shelters do usually require documentation, but I think depending on if it's an emergency, we've had instances where shelters under extenuating circumstances have taken, because remember also, all survivors sometimes don't have access. They might have ID documents, but they sometimes run off without it. We've even had survivors wanting to requesting that SAPS take them back to the home for their documents. Sometimes even after going back, they haven't been successful in getting their documents because they never had access to it or they were stopped or for whatever reason. But yes, does that answer your question?
Anissa, you muted. Kathy hands her hand up, and then we have another question from Sylvia, or actually a comment. She says, yes, we do assist then the house mother and the police to collect the documents, but we don't turn them away. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, Kathy?
Kathy, you muted.
Kathy? Kathy?
I
Kathy?
think we've lost Kathy. Oh, Kathy's hand is up
Kathy,
again.
oh, Kathy, go ahead.
Kathy, can you hear us? I see that you are unmuted, however, we're not able to hear you.
There you.
Is it possible if you can maybe post it in the Q&A or in the chat?
Chat. Okay. All right. Thanks for that, Kathy. Is there anybody else in the meantime? No.
Louisa's hand is up.
See, Louisa. Louisa, go ahead in the meantime.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Louisa.
Thank you, and thank you for a very incisive a report and information that we can go and share, because I think all of those captured in that report is very very important to extend that knowledge as well. In terms of the question that was raised, on that, in terms of ideas, I shall also do take in. And hence, that is where I think that the relationship needs to start. The relationship with these officers, you know, the home affairs officers in your local, even the clinics or the creches or the schools or the hospitals, maybe the day hospital within your local. If you can have that relationship or build that relationship in terms of a partnership, you will have that access, that confidential access, privacy access, you know, to these resources. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Louisa. Very valid point. You find that the shelters where there's resources around them and they have good working relationships really, really makes a difference in terms of helping a survivor more effectively. Okay, next time. Okay, so I'm going to refer to the chat. I'm not seeing any more hands. I just want to look at the chat, right? So, great refresher session, but also learned new. Okay, thank you. Then, Kathy said Vodacom has an app called Bright Sky, which looks like a weather app. But if you hold it in certain place, it opens. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Okay, okay, wait 1 second. I'm scrolling over my uh stick. Sorry. Okay, so it opens a secret section which will allow you to record information about abuse. Okay, so it's called Bright Sky. Thanks, Kathy. That's really interesting. I think it's important for everybody to know. Then you can switch back to the weather side and nobody knows. Okay, great. That sounds great. Thanks, Kathy. Okay. I know it's free for Vodacom subscribers. Okay, then we've got a comment from Josephine. It's very informative information. It would be great if next time we extend the invitation to SAPS officials. Yes, you're right. So again, highlighting the importance of inclusion of SAPS and other stakeholders so that we can, facilitate better the referral process, also the placement process, tribal authorities, education department, yes. And we do know that gender-based violence is a social issue that includes everybody, and that's the only way our interventions are going to be effective is that we do. Kathy also says I can organize a demo for you at the next webinar if you wish. That would be nice. That will be great, Kathy. We can definitely chat about that. Why not? Thank you so much. I see those are new hands we have, right?
Correct. It's Cornelia, Gugu, and Monica.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, Cornelia, who is first? Cornelia, please go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Anisha, for the information. It's very informative. So I was, with regards to the question I had asked in the chat, I would like to maybe elaborate so that I can get maybe clarity, because I'm most of the time on the other side where I need to assist a patient. I'm based in the clinic where I need to assist a patient to find a shelter. So now you find that the patient already is a victim of GBV because of already she is destitute. So they have experienced maybe sexual assault or intimate partner violence on the parks where they are staying. And now they're looking for a shelter. And as you screen on the clinic, the person will probably tell you that I don't have any families. My family has deserted me. I don't have any supporting structure. So the chances are very high that even if you try to find a shelter for that person, when they leave, they will probably go back to the streets. So hence I'm asking that the shelters, do they admit those who are destitute? Maybe also it's maybe an undocumented victim who's not able to go back home or not willing to go back home. So that's what I'm trying to find, because sometimes you find that you have that victim sitting right in front of you. So as for referral purposes, to know where to refer to for them to get assistance. Thank you.
Very valid point, Cornelia. So usually, and that's another difficulty also that we have, right? We get a lot of calls from destitute or homeless callers, right? That is a gap. We do refer them or we'll direct them towards homeless shelters. But that's something that we're looking into. In fact, Dr. Zubeda, our director, we thought maybe we'll have a conversation with the National Department of Social Development around the high levels of homeless calls and the relationship between women being homeless and their being exposed to sexual assault and having nowhere to go. So that's definitely a difficulty that we have. When we look at sheltering, the criteria, being a gender-based violence organization and a placement service, the one of the basic criteria is that the survivor has to be in an abusive relationship um, within a period of about 3 months. So, that is something that shelters look at when we place. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. But and from what you said also, if I understood correctly, there are some women who also experience intimate partner violence, but also have been victims or survivors of sexual assault from an unknown perpetrator. Cornelia, I don't know if that answers your question, but that is something that we struggle with as well if it's a destitute person. If anyone
Yes,
else
ma'am.
also wants to
Okay.
comment, you're more than welcome. Then I believe there's Gugu and let me just see.
Gugu
This
and
is
Monica.
This is Monica. Can I speak?
Monica? Yes, sure. Monica, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to find out with regards to our trafficking victims, how do we approach that? I am currently busy with the trafficking in persons report, so I wanted to see there are certain questions that we need to answer with regards to the report. And I think, Anissa, I probably have to forward the questions to you for submission at when it's needed to be submitted. But I wanted to see that we don't speak about the trafficking person. So I wanted to find out how do we approach them when it comes to issues like this?
Okay,
How
so
do
I
we
think
cater
what's
for them?
happening, I
Yeah.
think what's happening now is that there are a lot of shelters who are starting to take survivors of persons who've been trafficked. But there are then your shelters. There are some that are registered as shelters for persons who've been trafficked. There's an organization called the National Freedom Network who we work closely with. In fact, we are in the process of confirming a date for a workshop with them. We're looking at around March, specifically for shelters. Yeah, so you're more than welcome to direct your questions. If I can assist, I will. If not, I will seek National Freedom Network's assistance, and then I can even share their emails with you. So if you want to get in direct contact with them,
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Thank you.
you're welcome, Monica. Do we have Google on? Google, do you want to go ahead?
Gugu, you muted.
Google. While we're waiting for Google, is there anybody else who wants to say something,
Josephine.
ask?
Sorry,
Josephine?
Josephine added in the chat. And to add on that, remember all victims need to be treated with respect and dignity. So that is where the importance of stakeholders and referral come in.
Referrals come in. A very valid point, yes. I think always remembering that should be our priority because remember that when we talk about, especially in the gender-based violence space, we talk about safety and dignity. And survivors don't always get that. Please share the presentation. Okay, Tanya. Sorry, had to leave. Okay, so Deline has left us. So, okay, noted. Anyone else? I do have something else, but I think we're not going to have enough time for that. I kept it on the side, but it's something that I put together. It's not in a presentation format, but I'm thinking maybe a follow-up webinar or something a little bit later, but it looks at referral guidelines. So how people, what they need to keep in mind when they're referring for shelter placement. But that's something we can look at in a follow-up webinar. I'd like to spend a little bit more time with that. So that is something that we can do later on. And then, Kathy, thank you for offering your input and offering your availability for a future webinar. That sounds great. I think yes, it's important that we open ourselves up to more innovative platforms and channels because there's a lot out there. So that will be great. And we hope that we'll have a lot of you attend that as well. I'm glad also that the safety plan shared this morning, yes, it was meant to be something simple because it is intended for survivors. So something that we can hand out. I'm hoping it's something that all of you can use going forward also, where possible. We do try to distribute it when we engage with stakeholders in person. So we will continue to do that as well.
We have one more hand up. We see it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. I would like to find out from you, is it possible for me to access the presentation on your site? Because I think there's things I was not able to listen to. I joined later. Is it possible for me to go back to your site and listen to your presentation again?
Sure. So we do share the presentation with those of you who attended.
Oh, okay.
You will
Okay.
have access.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Abusive. There's still another. Oh,
It's still Google. I'm not too sure. Maybe Google, if you're able to maybe put it in the chat.
yes.
And then Sylvia's hand is up as well.
Okay. Okay, so Google, if you want to, if you can hear us and you can type something in the chat box. In the meantime, Sylvia, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry to talk. I talk too much. I'm a social worker, so it's my
No,
job to
it's
talk.
fine. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So, I wanted to ask about the victims of human trafficking because I believe that you have to be registered to render that service, not just a shelter. And with us, we don't have that kind of restriction. But sometimes it happens that we get those victims and um but no one really has any information about it because it will be maybe the police that are bringing the victim, or it will be normally NPA or the Department of Social Development. And in the Eastern Cape, I think it's in Port Elizabeth that is registered. Do we need to have like a special registration for us to keep the victims of human trafficking? Because what they said to us is our safe house is not safe because there's no cameras and there's no security at the gate. So I'm not sure. Do you maybe perhaps know anything about that?
So we've had webinars for trafficking in persons, but like I said, National Freedom Network we in the process of setting up a workshop, particularly for shelters and how to deal with survivors of human trafficking, right? That having been said, yes, there are shelters that are registered for that particular service. However, a lot of shelters are taking, victims nonetheless. There are obviously other issues to consider, particularly around safety, reporting, criminal stuff. That's in addition to, your intimate partner violence or domestic violence cases. So it's important that, and I'm hoping that, we're looking at March setting up that training, and I'm hoping that you're going to join us. Alternatively, if you would like to get in touch with National Freedom Network, we've worked with them in the past. They're very good with it. They'll be able to best inform you. I don't want to give you information that's not 100% accurate. So I would actually prefer that you get in touch with them. They're quite great at helping with trafficking in persons. Even Department of Social Development should be able to help you with that. But check with National Freedom Network, and please join our training as soon as we've confirmed dates, and that we will send out an invite. But we're looking at March most probably. Sylvia, I hope that helps or gives you some hope in the next couple of months to get more information about that.
Anissa, we have some in the chat.
Yes, thank
And
you
then
very
Carol.
much. Yes, it's Carol Clady from the Gender-Based Violence Command Center. Thank you so much for the presentation and the information, colleagues. I just wanted to add that, as far as I know, the shelters that provide services to victims of trafficking need to be registered. They literally need to be registered. So they need to at least be taken through the process of what are the requirements for them to be registered. And I think it is much more important for shelters to know and to try and get the assistance that is needed so that they comply with the requirements for the registration. Mr. Butikulwane is the one that is helping with the accreditation of the shelters that provide services also to victims of trafficking. So I think we can assist. I don't know. I mean, anyway, you're saying you are preparing a training or information sessions in terms of, what are the requirements for the registration?
So I think National Freedom Network will focus on dealing with victims of trafficking. As far as registration, yes, we can contact Mr. Kulwane.
Yes, I think it will help.
Particularly around registration.
Sorry, yes. I think it will help if you can at least include him on your program so that he can also share the information in terms of what is required for a shelter to be accredited as a shelter that provides also services to victims of trafficking. Thank you very much.
Yes, we certainly will. We're just waiting for confirmation for a date, and then we will make the connection. Thanks for that, Carol. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I see.
Carol, would you be so
Monica?
kind? Yeah, Carol, would you be so kind as to give Puti's details, because I definitely am interested to see which other places that are accredited. Because I need to report on that as well.
Oh, okay, I'll do so.
Thank you so much.
Do I give you
Monica,
the
yes,
email
Puti
address?
would be a good person from the department side to assist you with information more around, registrations and even maybe like information about which shelters are registered. Monica? Okay, is there anybody else? Is that still Gugu's hand?
No, that's Louisa's hand.
Oh, sorry. Louisa, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just thinking, listening to everyone here, and I was thinking, and it crossed my mind that the gender-based violence, the shelters and the forums and what all structure stands for is mainly for safety for the survivors. And we having an Occupational Health and Safety Act and law, it was amended last year and I think the year before. But I am, Louisa, is of the view that regulation and those laws are not NGOs or shelter friendly. And I think it speaks more to to the corporate world. Because yes, there is an allocation for occupational health and safety that the shelters receive, but if you have to deal with infrastructure, and you have to deal with all of these things that resonates with your health and safety, which you need to comply with, you know, then it's my view that this amendments and this act or regulation and law is not shelter or NGO friendly. And it's a bit worrying because now, what do we do? What do we do? Because whilst the victim or the survivor is in, but with us at the shelter, anything can happen. She can trip over something, something that we couldn't fix because of we don't have the necessary funds, and all of that. So, that responsibility, and that will then fall upon us because we will be responsible for that. And I think that the law there is not shelter friendly or NGO friendly. That resonates with all the gender-based violence issues. Thank you.
Anissa, you muted?
Yeah, I know I'm muted. Okay, thanks for that, Melanie. Okay, so I think thanks for that, Louisa. I think a lot of the frustrations that shelters also experience is around the difficulties trying to sort out compliance and all the red tape. And in the meantime, we have survivors who are struggling and don't have access to services sometimes. So that does compromise our ability to provide services. Thank you for that.
There are a few items in the chat. Josephine said we also need to make sure that when the client victim is sheltered, we need to prioritize the importance of multidisciplinary team meeting. Gugu said here at Batpla Shelter, we do get victims of trafficking in persons. However, there's still a need for trainings on trafficking for us to adhere fully to the DQA tool. Monica, we have the details for Booty. Okay, we've requested that. And as well as Linda's asking for the details from Booty for the accredited shelters. Sylvia says that they're definitely not NGO friendly. And Nari says, true, they are not shelter friendly and they need money. And then also just on that note, most of our trainings and webinars are all on our YouTube page. So when I send today's recording as well as presentation, the YouTube link will be on there so that you're able then to access any of our previous webinars or trainings. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Melanie. And that would include the webinar on trafficking in persons as well. Thank you, everybody. I don't know if there's anything or anyone else. If not, I think we okay to close the session. Okay, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Look out for our communication with the presentation and our future webinars, and we'll be in touch. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, colleagues. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
colleagues.
Thank you, colleagues. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
bye.
ma'am. Bye. Thank you, colleagues.